Yeah, there are a lot of potential hazards that go on in business, and I'd like to talk to you about three of them that are just absolutely deadly unless you get to them. Number one is proactive hiring. Number two is getting people thinking for your organization. And number three is called delegation confidence. So let me go to number one and give you the premise. What I find with business owners over the years is that they're so busy and they're so caught up, and adrenaline is their only source of fuel, to such a potential risk that the hiring decisions in their business just go right out the door. And what they do to compensate for it is really funny. They start to get more people involved in the hiring process. They get a larger pool of candidates, and it's all just a coping mechanism to deal with the factor of speed that they think is their threat. And then this leads to bad hiring decisions. And the focus here is to create an all-star team around you, because you got in your business to be free, but what's critical, what will make or break you, is how great of a team you put around you. So hiring is number one. If you're really going to enjoy your business and you're going to be freed up, right, and do the things that got you to get this business going, it wasn't about the money. It was to become more creative. It was to really express who you fully are. I know that. But what you do is you reactively hire, and reactive hiring happens when the position needs to be filled. It's time to turn on the hiring engines, and we start looking for a person to hire. And then just play it out from there, right? We start bringing the person in, and we get a large pool of candidates. We have more people looking at them. Now we have more biases now involved, and the hiring mistakes just come one right after the other. And we wonder why the same people coming are making the same mistakes. We think it's the wrong person again. No, it's a hiring system that's sub-optimizing. What's the alternative? The alternative is to proactively hire. Since the most important role you can have in your business is to sell and market, look at hiring as the same way of operating. You would build up a pipeline or a dream team list of potential candidates. You'd be thinking ahead so that you don't get into any trouble financially. You'd have a surplus of potential clients, so you've always got opportunities waiting at your door. Treat the hiring process the same way. Number two, getting people to think for your organization. This has got to be probably in competition with the number one, which is the hiring piece, reactive hiring versus proactive. This problem of getting people thinking for your organization has got to be one of the main problems of small business in the 21st century. What happens is the leader isn't worth following. Why should anyone be led by you when all you do is think for the organization and people act? If only the thing that they're doing is acting and they're not thinking for your organization, obviously what you're doing is you're potentially doing control. You're trying to control things so much out of fear or minding your profit, making sure everything's done right, instead of putting the right setting in place for people to learn and flourish and really genuinely, truly own what they care about in the organization. But what entrepreneurs do, what leaders do today, is they often make the mistake of thinking that to make up for the control that they exhibit, they'll soften the blow, will provide incentives. If you do it right, you get rewarded and so forth. But then there's only compliance, and people have a low-grade resentment for being in compliance because they don't fully engage their horsepower into what they want to create and contribute. They're doing it for your reasons, not their own reasons. And this is not going to last. In other words, they'll do it for a while, but they'll probably hit the streets with their resume because they can't contribute all they are to the organization. This starts with a very subtle way of denying your answers. Because you're the expert and you're the one who they can't hold a candle to, both sides are affected. Number one is you feel you need to have all the answers. And number two is when they see themselves as subordinates, why even try? It's not worth trying because I'm seeing myself as so weak. Anything I say is only going to hurt me, so I better not say it. So instead of being honest, or instead of convicting ourselves to our true desires, fear steps in and we have to mask it or just shut up because we're not allowed to speak up. This is so often the case, but yet we want to overlook it because we're so focused on profit despite the fact nobody really cares about it. The reason that small businesses fail, in due part, and the reason you're ending up miserable without an all-star team, is that very thing, is that you've gotten yourself into figuring it all out as opposed to everybody else. I heard it once said by a client of mine who was running into a huge crisis, a problem, and rather than do his typical heroism gig, we stopped And he walked into the room, and I instructed him to say that, look, everybody, I'm sure we can figure this out. We've all got the mentality. We've all got the hearts to figure this out. And if we think really hard, I think we can. So let's begin. He didn't come in with all the solutions. He didn't come in with all of the heroism, because that makes the symptoms worse. In other words, that makes the people who are weak weaker and makes the stronger stronger. And so there is no learning environment for people to take responsibility for themselves, for what they truly care about. Can you create a team that truly cares about the vision? It's not your vision anyway. It's not a matter of your vision and having them buy it, digest it, you sell it, you tell it. It's a matter of co-creating with your team. And by doing that, you have to learn how to reflect and inquire in a way so that you tap your team's deepest aspirations, and they can start thinking about and participating from a place where they deeply care about what they really think this business is going to do. And they have to be true believers in that, and they can be if they choose to, for their own reasons. The third one is delegation confidence. My guess is that you're not delegating enough. You spend your time on things that you are finding trivial. You don't get your best energy out of the activities that you do. Hence, over the long haul, you end up getting more exhausted doing everything as opposed to doing the significant few things where you truly shine. And Lord knows if you're doing that, you're probably a role model for everybody else doing the things they shouldn't be doing. One of the worst pieces of advice that I ever got was to work on my weaknesses. What I ended up with was a lot of strong weaknesses, but I didn't get the leverage nor enjoy all of the neat rewards and epic moments that came from focusing my strengths. That doesn't suggest that you should only focus in the area of your strengths, but certainly you'll get to a point of boredom where your strengths are, and you might not move beyond where you're comfortable, like an elephant tied to a stick who's conditioned to only walk into the circle that they are tied to. Once the chain goes off the leg, the elephant stays within that circumference, very similar to our strengths. So we don't want to get caught up in that elephant principle by no means, but we also don't want to be doing things that don't make our life any easier, better, or more fun. You have a business to increase your quality of life, and if you think that work should be hell, well, you're probably creating it. Alternatively, we could be stopping and slowing down and providing precise communication and delegating on a whole new level. But the reason that you probably aren't doing that is slowing down is just way too much time. There's just way too much of a threat. When you find the time, you'll delegate more precisely. But then you end up with the same mistakes, having to go back, having to answer all the questions again. So if you really compare it in the final analysis, it's better that you slow down and really delegate. But how do you delegate? Well, you define the purpose for the task. You furnish the context of the task. You furnish the process. You document it in steps so it's very clear and mapped out so it can be used continuously. And you make sure that there's a payoff for the person doing it. How does this stand to gain for them and their own reasons for doing it? Even if you gave those three things the thought, the purpose, the process, and the payoff, you would package and couch your delegations and directives much better. They'd be much more likely to stick. But at best, you probably drive-by delegate. In other words, you do it in the hallway. There isn't sufficient time. And so you end up paying the price. So if you're wondering why you're miserable, if you're wondering why you're caught up in a business that is getting you to be prisoner of your own machine, you need more delegation confidence. You need to hire an all-star team that thinks on behalf of your organization. And you need to hire smart, not manage tough. Hire slow, fire fast. And that starts with proactive hiring. Our VIP coach program is centered greatly around these three particular skill sets. We finesse all of our entrepreneurs in doing them. And those that do implement and listen to what we have to say, those who are comfortable with their own ignorance, they have more free time, they're better quality human beings, they don't get caught up in the innovation-killing time traps that their competitors do, and they develop an immunity to market downturns. I'm telling you this because I've been doing this for 12,000 hours. I've observed over 365 entrepreneurs at this point. I have 45 one-on-one coaching clients, and I think I'm very well equipped to know what's going on out there in the tremors of small business. I understand the spasms that they have when things start to limit their growth. I'm first thing on it. I know exactly what to look for. So this is from the field. These are field-tested strategies that you can use. I hope you take action. I hope you seek a coach. I hope you're comfortable enough with your own ignorance to get help. Because my guess is you can't see the playing field. You have a limit that's built into you. When you realize how interdependent you really are, you'll probably see why Tiger Woods has a coach, why Kobe Bryant has a shooting coach, why the best have coaches to always compete and to come out on the winning side. Thank you for listening.